Yeah, it's a really interesting development here, but the sheriff basically says, you know, it's ultimately up to the courts to, in his view, get this right and declare this law unconstitutional. But until then, he says there are very real mental health crises and related events that law enforcement, they have to respond to. And he says at this point, it's about having another tool in the toolbox to respond.
If someone's having a meltdown, and they've got weapons, I think it's a good idea to take them if they have a history of violence or background.
And Pete Johnson of Livingston County likes that his sheriff, Mike Murphy, has now used the state's recently approved red flag gun laws, allowing for a person's guns to be taken away if a court or law enforcement agency thinks they are a threat to themselves or others. This is despite the sheriff previously vowing to not enforce it, calling it unconstitutional.
If it's obvious that they're a threat and they've made verbal and I don't know, threats online and stuff, yeah, I think it's totally there.
I still have a lot of concerns about the law. I don't agree with the law, and there's a lot of reasons for that. But at the end of the day, it is the law.
Which is why Sheriff Murphy tells Fox 2 by phone he has and will use the emergency risk protection order to confiscate weapons if it's one more way to keep people safe. Firearms can now be taken away if police or a mental health professional finds a person to be a risk to themselves or to anyone around them. If a family member voices similar concerns and a judge approves, the person with the guns has a full day to turn them over. The sheriff talked about a recent call involving a man having a mental health crisis.
He answers the door. He's got pistols in each pocket, kind of like an old Western six-shooter. Threatens he's going to kill us, he's going to kill the neighbors. So we take him into custody, and we took his guns.
Sheriff Murphy says he'd still like to see pro-gun groups get the law into court for a ruling. The Livingston County Board of Commissioners even backed up his opposition to the law by declaring Livingston to be a constitutional county that stands behind the Second Amendment. But many in Livingston County say they have mixed opinions. April Floyd is a former first responder.
I can also see those situations where I've, dealt with mentally ill patients. And, I can see why, some people would think that it's a necessary law. But again, for me, it's just such a slippery slope anytime the government infringes on our constitutional rights.
Now, supporters of the law say that this is exactly what it's supposed to do. It's supposed to be another resource for first responders to use to keep people safe. And they know that there is an escalating mental health crisis out there. We've certainly covered that time and time again when it comes to firearms and public safety concerns, things like that. But there are critics of the law and supporters who do unite on one thing. They say they have to monitor it and maybe make tweaks down the road. One thing that we did hear from both sides throughout this whole debate is they don't want situations where, say, perhaps a bitter ex-lover or somebody with a grudge files a fake report to a judge to try to get weapons from their ex taken away, things like that. But obviously, there's a lot of concerns about domestic violence and very legitimate cases where they want to make sure that those weapons are not in the hands of people who are dangerous to themselves or others. So still a lot of things that they're trying to sort out here, even as this law has been in place for several months. Reporting live, Dave Kinchin on the